What's up, guys? It's Craig Smith. Today I'm going to discuss the difference between leases, PPAs, and ownership options when you go solar on your home. So the three options available for every homeowner is to either own it, to lease it, or to sign up for a power purchase agreement, commonly called the PPA, right? So let's start with ownership, okay? When you own the system, when you go to purchase a system, you could either A, buy it cash, which is very uncommon, or B, you can just finance the system using a lender like LoanPal, which is probably the most common solar lender in the country, right? So what happens is you pay every month a solar payment just like you would a car payment or a mortgage payment. And each of those payments goes towards ownership. And when you make your final payment, you own the equipment. And now you don't have a power bill anymore at all, because you basically produce your own power, right? Now, the lending options typically vary anywhere from 10 years to as much as 25 years. And interest rates could be as low as 2.9 to as high as, 8.9, 9.9. I've seen them. So, owning the system gives you the most long-term value, and that's not debatable. Now, leasing and PPAs, they're both extremely similar. Really, they're different in nomenclature. So when you lease, you're leasing the equipment. So basically, you're renting the equipment on your rooftop for a given amount of time, typically 25 years, okay? So you're just renting the equipment, and in doing so, you get the power that the equipment produces, right? And that rental charge is typically going to be a discount to what you'd be paying your utility company for power. So it makes sense to rent the equipment, and now you don't have a power bill anymore. And you also get to use clean energy, right? So you get to, let's say you're an environmentally conscious person, you feel better, like, hey, I'm helping the environment, and I'm paying less for my power than I otherwise would have. So that's where the lease comes in. Power purchase agreement, instead of renting the equipment, you're basically buying the production. So they'll give you an estimate, like this system's going to produce 10,000 kilowatt hours a year. So it's going to produce 10,000 kilowatt hours per year, and to get these kilowatt hours, it's going to be $120 a month, okay? Now, had you stuck with your utility company, maybe that's $160, $170. So you're just buying the power that it produces, okay? So you're basically just changing your service provider, right? Instead of buying your kilowatt hours from the utility company, you're buying it from the solar company. Now, both leases and PPAs typically come with what's called an annual escalator. The rates go up annually, anywhere from 1% to 3%, right? Now, you can get a flat rate, but typically if you get a flat rate, they're going to charge you as much as you're paying for power now or more than you're paying for power now. And the reason being so is that if you're getting a flat rate, meaning it's never going to go up in 25 years, the solar company knows that the utility rates are going to go up in 25 years, so they at least want to get a little bit more money from you, because they'd rather go up parallel to the utility company. So let's say you're paying 15 cents a kilowatt hour from your utility company. The solar company will charge you, let's say, 13 cents. So they give you a 2-cent discount, right? Well, they know that the utility company is going to probably go up 4% per year. That's what the national average is. So since they're going up 4% per year, they want to go up 3% per year. So they start at 13 cents versus 15. So you start at a discount, and then every year when the utility goes up 4%, you go up 3%. So every year the utility company goes up, you're saving just a little bit more, right? So the solar companies don't want to give you too much savings. They want to try and project to where they can make the most amount of money while still providing you savings, right? So if they go with the flat rate where they're never going to raise your rates, they're going to probably start you higher, because they want to make sure that they get the most bang for their buck while still giving you value. So those are the leasing and PPA options. And typically people go with the lease or PPA if they don't qualify for the tax credit that comes with owning a system. So when you own a system, you get a 26% tax credit. So for every $10,000 of that system's cost, you get $2,600 back to you in an investment tax credit through the government, but you have to have tax liability. So let's say you're retired and on SSI and you don't get taxed at all, then you won't receive that benefit. So a lot of solar reps feel like, well, if they're not going to receive the 26% tax benefit, I'm better off just putting them in a lease or a PPA. Now, I completely disagree with that mentality because the reality is this: even if you miss out on the 2,600 or the 26%, or call it 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand, depending on the system cost, but that money you miss out on, that 26% discount, even though you miss it, you still get more value that way than on a lease or a PPA, because you're going to own it. When you make your final ownership payment, you own the power. When you make your final lease or PPA payment, you still need to either renew your lease, buy the system cash, or they remove it for free. So there's no benefit after 25 years. There's no new benefit after 25 years. You either have to pay more or have them remove it. Where when you own your system, after your final payment, you own the power. So even if you're old, you're 80, and you're not going to get the tax credit, it doesn't really matter, because who's going to get your home next? Maybe you give it to your kids. Maybe the new homeowner is going to buy it. They're going to want to own it versus to be finishing up your lease, to be finishing up an escalated lease. They'd rather know that, hey, I got another 10 years on ownership and then I'm going to own this outright. So it sets up the next buyer for a much better situation when you own it, and it doesn't cost you more to own it. It never costs you more to own it than it does to lease or PPA it. It always costs you more to lease or PPA the program. Always. So ownership almost always makes sense. Now, am I saying that a lease or a PPA never makes sense? No, I'm not saying that, but for the most part, owning it almost always makes sense.